Hello, everybody. How are you?
Hi,
Brandy's a
y'all.
little extra today because it was her last day of school. So she's a little extra. You'll just have to forgive her.
Forgive me. I am free. I am free. Okay, sorry.
That's funny.
Summer started today. Now.
Oh, that's funny. Anyhow, who all do we have here? My little eye up here says nobody, says zero. So I know that's not true, but it says zero. Okay, so we have Karen and Brenda and Lynn. Hello. Sean, be on your game tonight. We're going to need you, okay? Sherry is here. Lynn is here. Hello, Margaret. Sherry, Margaret. Okay, all the same people
You,
there.
you
Okay.
said Brenda, right? You already saw Brenda.
Did I say Brenda? Didn't I say Brenda right at the beginning? I think I did.
Mhm.
She was the second one at the top of the list. I think I did. I don't know. Got her now, though. Huh?
Yeah,
We
we got it.
got
Okay.
them. We got them. Oh, now my eye changed up there. Now there's 8 people. All right. There's 8. Look, this glare just kills me behind me. Um, you guys can't see nothing. There. I mean, I like the sunshine coming in. Don't get me wrong, but Oh, so today's been a crazy day. I thought, it's Tuesday, it's Taco Tuesday. Mr. Dipple would be gone for a considerable amount of time. No, he was only gone an hour and a half. Cut into my recording time. Then he came in here and he got on my computer. And then I'm like, okay. So finally, he decided he was done messing around and he went outside and he's been outside for several hours. I'm like, okay, record, record, record. Although that wasn't what I was going to do. I wanted to go out and plant flowers, but I got a little of that done anyhow.
You got to take the recording time when you can.
Yes. So I was talking to Brandy, I think, on her way home from school. And I said, Brandy, uh, this book just gets more and more, I don't know, muddled, muddy, confusing, more stuff. I don't understand, right? I don't get it. I don't know. So there's just stuff I don't get. I don't get it. It's just getting more confusing. Like, first question I had for Brandy, I was like, how can this chick take off with her therapist and ends up going on some weird trip to the past with people she doesn't know? And I don't even know what all she learned there. So I don't know. I'm confused again. Anyhow, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and I just said, the thing with that is that, she has this magic in her from her mother's side called root. And so with them, they basically ask the ancestors, and since so the therapist asked her ancestors to show us what needs to be shown. And so that's how they went back to the past, and then what happened was the ancestors decided that Bree needed to see more because of what's going to be coming up. And so therefore, it's they needed to show her certain stuff from her people so that she could make a more informed decision with the other people.
Thank you, Sean. Even somebody who understands, she's like, this crap's gone off the rails. I don't know what the hell's going on. Oh, my goodness.
Well, it's because it's bringing in more than just the Arthurian legend. Although I will say, and Sean, I know that you've got this part right, is that Merlin, when they said that all Merlins are part demon, it's because they believe that the first Merlin, actual Merlin, he came about because he was not full human. That's how he got his magical powers. And so therefore, essentially all of that is, passed down for every Merlin. And that's what allows them to be able to have the store of power that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she has other stuff in her besides that root. And so that's why they felt compelled to need to show her. It's kind of like going, look at my side right here. You need to see all of this information before, because right now, prior to that, all she had known and all she'd been learning about was, the knights and all that. And so now, she's having to be able to see both sides, because she is an anomaly, and that we already know she's an anomaly.
So what the heck else could she have in her besides root? What else could there be besides
Well,
root?
I honestly think that she has some of the either stuff from Morrigan's line or from Merlin's line, because when she was scared and she wasn't thinking, and those foxes, and she thought she was going to die, so she just pushed up her hand, and it obviously was covered in mage flame, which shocked Cell, even, because I mean it killed that fox like boom.
I like Karen's answer. Let's just go back to romance. When we don't understand anything else, let's just have a romance.
Well, I think there could be a slight little possibility of that, because Cell, well, now that Cell doesn't think that she's a danger, right? So, does, and he's obviously impressed with what happened with the foxes. So, that's kind of one of those, could there be a little triangle there?
I have no idea. I just keep reading, and I just keep reading, and I'm like, okay, I don't know. Maybe someday this will all come together and all make sense. But right now, I'm just trying to keep the pieces together. I'm
Well,
still
Lynn said
needing.
her second read through now that she's
I
reading this
know.
through a second time, it
I
makes more
know.
sense.
I still need a spreadsheet or a family tree or some diagram with all this stuff explained. What's this and what's that and what's that? And it's like, what was the other thing we talked about? That the fox weren't, um, they
They're
weren't,
not full corporal.
yeah. And I'm like, what the hell is that? What's corporal? What does that mean?
So, okay, corporal. Here's what corporal means. Okay, so like we are corporal. We are in this plane 100%. Okay, so for something that is non-corporal, like say a ghost, essentially it's we see kind of like a shadow of it. We see an image, but we don't see the actual thing, because they are not full corporal. They're not on this plane of existence. They're on another plane of existence.
That's asking a lot.
I mean, it's, I don't know. But then again, you got to remember, I read a lot of fantasy and paranormal. So for me, something being corporal, part corporal, like that's part of
Is
my
that
everyday
more? That's
reading.
more. Is that more what this is? It's like more paranormal than anything, or what is it?
It's kind of like, honestly, especially with bringing in root, which kind of, I'll be honest, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm thinking root kind of brings it back to a different form of magic, not Arthurian magic, but like witchcraft type, because sometimes you would say that different sects of witchcraft would be like where they work with the elements and stuff, and so like maybe the earth ones, and with the Native Americans, that are not Native Americans, African Americans, I want to say there's like a line. It's not called witchcraft, it's called something else, but it's kind of like along those lines, right? And so it's part of the nature part. And so that's why I say she seems to have multiple things in her, and that's why neither side knows. I mean, because her therapist she could sense root, or what Bree refers to as aether, And Bree can see it. And she's like, wait, you can see it? And she's like, you can't? So, no, I can sense it, but I cannot see it. And of course, she's like, we call it root.
I'm with you, Sherry. How'd she just take off and go for a walk with Ruth? Come on, let's just go walking with Ruth and go to these places and whatnot. I don't know.
Like I said, because the ancestors of, you got to remember, that woman went to school with Bree's mom. So, the ancestors were like, no, we're pulling her. She's got enough root in her that we're going to pull her to see what we want to see, what we want her to see.
All right, then. That's all I got. All right. Yeah. What happened to Cell at the end of the last chapter? I don't know.
Yep. See, Sean, non-corporal in our plane and another plane of existence. Ghost is partially corporal. You can see, but you can't touch. Poltergeist are way more corporal, and that's why they can affect us. Zombie, full corporal. You can see, touch, hear, be harmed. Yeah, Nick punched him because Cell put Bree in danger. Like, Cell purposely arranged that little test for it to be paired with her, and he sicked his hellhounds on Bree, and he's like, well, I wasn't gonna let him actually get to her. And Nick's like, no.
Yeah.
But
that wasn't his hellhounds after all. It was the hell foxes.
Well, the first ones that cornered her were Cells. Yeah. But then there became a crap. Those aren't mine.
Yeah. So like I said,
and that's when he finally realized, well, crap, you don't know about any of this. You don't know what's happening.
Yeah, he did deserve that for sure.
Yep, because he knew he was going to put her in that position. I mean, my God, you're not supposed to have someone, because he knows where all the stuff is, because he's the one that put that stuff there. He's the one that's using it. So he knew the entire time that he was going to corner her. How's that fair?
Nobody said it was fair. He's just never trusted her since day one. He thinks that she's evil and bad, and I don't know.
And she's like, you're the one that's part demon.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, look what happened to your hand. And the fact that mage flame. Now, I thought it was interesting, because she had punched up, so her fist was closed. And I guess when she was trying to get her fist out of the fox, because the fox at that point was corporal, she couldn't. And he's like, you got to close your hand. And so, like, nothing harmed her as far as on that part, because that mage flame essentially protected her. But she had to have some sort of power, like major power, to punch through that freaking fox. And like I said, I think it scared and impressed Selwyn.
Oh, well, sure. He's never seen anything like that.
No, and so I think he's going to become more interested in what she can do. Because he's already guessed, even though she never told him, nobody told him, he already has figured out, because that's what he told her. He figured out, look, I know that the mesmer didn't work on you. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, because I can feel when my magic's in something and my magic's not in you. I'd be like, well, done.
Okay. So this is going to be like the Nora Roberts series that we read, where it's my phone. It's Dale.
Oh, I'm like, what is happening?
It's Dale calling me from out back. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I have to call him in a minute. He should know that I'm live right now. He knows that's the one thing I'm doing today is going live. So anyhow, so yeah, I don't know, Brenda. Are there just normal people at this school? I have no idea. Are they all something? Yes. I have no idea.
No,
But
I believe that there are regular people at the school, but there are people in certain positions that are from the order. And obviously, there are some that are there from Root, but not very many. Because remember, there's not very many African Americans, blacks, whatever, at that school. And so, and since that seems to be Root is what they're calling their magic, their side. And so, I am just I'm thinking somehow, some way we had a crossover of the Root magic and the Merlin
Alice,
magic,
Alice is
and it's
normal.
created something new.
Lynn's like, Alice is normal.
Yes,
So,
Alice
like
is
I said,
normal.
this is kind of starting to sound like the Nora Roberts series, where she learned somewhere along the way that she comes from these other people, her dad and whatnot, and that she has powers and that she's going to be called on to fight. And she's going to have to take out her grandfather. And she starts learning more and more about herself and training, but she trains with people because those people know. And I mean, there's no big surprises about what she can do because she's being taught how to use things. Somebody's gonna end up teaching her stuff. Who's gonna teach her? Who's gonna teach her?
I think Cell is going to eventually teach her some things, but I think that she's going to get a combination of training from the therapist on that side. And
Does
I
the
think the
therapist
ancestors are going to help.
does she know enough? I mean, does she know enough? It
She knows,
seems like she's the only person right now from that perspective to help her with that part.
right.
Unless
She
she's
is.
going to go time traveling again back into wherever to learn from those other people. I
And
don't
she
know.
could. And so I was trying to answer. So Sean, the therapist and the time travel abilities, she can only time travel through her own ancestors. So she tried something new by bringing Bree along because that's not normal because Bree's not of her bloodline. But she tried something new by being at there, and so essentially the Root, they don't gather Root or Aether. They ask the ancestors to loan it to them, and then it gets given back. Whereas the Order, the reason they say that they steal the Ether is because they're not asking permission to use it. They are pulling it and pulling it into themselves and keeping it.
Yeah. Well, and that's what those foxes did. They pulled his from him, which how can they do that? What gives them the power to do that?
They're Shadowborn, and what fuels them is magic and more of that Aether. Now, why Cell could not figure out after maybe the second time that they're pulling it, going, dude, they're pulling it and getting stronger. Stop using your magic. Stop it.
But how else was he thinking he was going to kill them? I don't know.
Well, because that's what he's been relying on for so long. That's what he's been relying on. But now notice, when she used hers, it killed them and they couldn't take it from her. So hers is not coming from, that's what's so weird for me, is that she's not pulling it from outside. It seems to be coming from inside her. So that's what's kind of interesting to me.
So you're saying that when Cell decides to do something, he's pulling it from somewhere? Like what?
Yes.
Where? The air? Where? I mean,
he's pulling it from the environment around him. He's pulling it from the magic around him.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, he's not, in other words, the magic is not completely within him. And, part of what allows him to be able to pull so much of the Ether is, I think, because of that demon side. Remember, that demon side is more towards the Shadowborn. Shadowborn, that's like their fuel. That's their fuel. And so
Apparently, Sean, that's what I would assume is that's what the big war is about. But now, who's warring with who? I mean, the Shadowborn are the evil people, but then what does the root people have to do with it? Are they, I don't know.
because I think that they are just
Right,
they're
Sherry?
not stealing and keeping the magic. Essentially, if we look at all of Aether Root as magic, okay, Earth has magic. All of that things that are alive have magic, okay, and so with Root magic, it's kind of like asking and saying, let me use it, but I'm not going to keep it. I'm not using it to keep it within me and use it over and over. I'm going to use it and I'm going to put it back. And the others are using it, not asking permission and using it and like trying to keep some of it within themselves and not like giving back.
So they're pissed at each other? They must know about each other? They must know about
I don't know. I don't know
that at each other? I don't know.
I don't know that Root. I don't know that they have an issue with the court.
An issue.
They have an issue with the order, but I don't think the order has an issue with them necessarily. I think that they just are like, look, they're practicing wrong. They're not asking. They're just taking. They're not using. They're not borrowing. They're stealing. And the stealing, I think more and more of the stealing is allowing more portals to open and more Shadowborn to cross over, because if they desperately want that Aether, they're going to go after where there's big concentrations of it. If you're only borrowing and putting it back, there's not big concentrations. But if you are stealing, caping, grabbing, gathering, you're getting a large concentration in an area.
And
which
so
is going to send out signals.
that's why they're now coming through to like this college so strongly, because that's where so many of these people are that are gathering up all of the magic, and they know that, they sense it.
And as each one awakens, more is being pulled for this big battle because they feel like they need that to fight it. But the more that they have, I think the more of a beacon that it's sending to the Shadowborn. I may be completely wrong, but this is just what I'm thinking.
You know what? I agree with Sherry. It's clear as mud, Brandy. Clear as mud. I'll buy it. Sure, I'll buy that.
It's just a working theory at this point.
I have nothing to say. I'm just here. I'm just following along, reading along. That's all I got. I have no ideas, no thoughts, no predictions, I'm just trying to keep up. Arthurians are fighting the Shadowborn in order to keep stealing and using the magic. Shadowborn are trying to stop them from taking it. Okay. Why would the Shadowborn not want them to have it, though? I mean, that makes as much sense as anything, but why did the Shadowborn not want them to have it?
Well, is it possible that a lot of it comes from the Shadowlands and it's like they're taking it from them? So it's kind of like taking their power away from them and they want it back? I don't know. Because they're not asking, they're not borrowing, they're taking. So
who are the Shadowborn? Who are they?
I think they're the demons. Full demons. From hell.
And where do they come from? They come from hell.
They come from hell. And there's rifts because, because if you think about it, if Merlin was an anomaly because essentially a demon and his mama, booba, and Merlin. And since Merlin suddenly got this power from the demon side, it's kind of like, uh-oh. But, and he kept using it and he started realizing what all he could do. And then more came about, more happened, more. I don't know. I think that they're full demons. Is the Shadowborns are full demon from hell.
How'd they get out of hell? I didn't think you could leave hell. That once you're in
Because
hell, you
there's
can't get out of hell.
because the rifts are causing the all of that still is it's causing rifts, it's causing portals to be opened that for a little bit allows them. That's why they can't become full corporal unless they can soak up enough of the aether, the magic from this side
They
to
just
come
got
to this
they just got
dimension.
enough of a chance to get out, and then they got to gain power when they get out.
Yep. Which means they got to go after somebody that has it.
Oy, oy vey, oy vey. Somebody's not doing their job in hell. That's what I have to say. Somebody in hell is letting people out. They're not supposed to be letting out. All right. Well, now that we got that cleared up to semi muddy. So here's the plan. I think I got a plan.
Oh, got a plan.
Yeah, plan for this week is to get through chapter 38.
Okay, hold on. So, Brandy, see this on the thing. Read chapter 38. Do not read 39.
Exactly. And then I think we're going to split up the rest of it into 2 sections. I think it's doable in 2 more sections.
Okay.
And we'll try to get that done in 2 sections. All right. So there's a whole bunch of stuff at the back of the book, and I'm about tempted to read the back of the book.
Oh, Lord.
Just because it might help with some understanding. Okay.
Okay. I'm like, are you trying to spoil it for yourself?
No. I just think it might help with some understanding because, like the author's notes, I'll just tell you like some of the highlights of what's in her author notes. There's a section about grief and trauma and how Legendborn addresses several types of trauma. There's a section about root craft. So maybe reading a little bit about the root craft might help, right, Sean? There's another section about UNC Chapel Hill history. So that could possibly help shed some light on some things. And then there's a little paragraph about King Arthur. So I'm thinking I might just read the end of this. I don't think it's going to spoil any of this story. It's just a few pages. I don't think it's going to spoil any of the story, but I think it might give a little different perspective or a little light on some things that are unclear. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you'll have to let me know if when they're explaining rootcraft, if it's kind of the same thing as what I was talking about as far as another form of magic, sort of kind of like witchcraft, but not, I mean, like one that focuses on plants.
Rootcraft is totally fictional.
Well, I know, but I mean, fictional or not, it's still based off of something.
That's just one thing that she just said. It is totally fictional. I'm going to read it. All right.
Okay.
I'll let you know if I find out anything clarifying as I read it this week. All right.
Oh, Margaret, have fun with that pizza.
Yum,
but it's going to taste good.
Margaret, just keep reading, and I mean, you can't be more confused than I am. I'm just reading and just listening to what Brandy's saying, and Sean until Sean now got a little confused by the whole thing. But I'm just gonna keep read the root part out loud. I can do that. Want me to do that? I can read about root. Let's see.
Yeah, because not everybody has that on theirs.
Okay, so here's what it says about rootcraft. In addition to drawing on my own life to create the fictional magic system of rootcraft, I took inspiration from African American history and spiritual traditions. In particular, I focused on root work, also known as hoodoo or conjure. Root work was developed by enslaved Africans and their descendants under American chattel slavery, and it can be traced from its historic origins to varied practices in present-day African American communities. Root work is not a centralized tradition, and practitioners from different families, regions, and times have their own gospel on what it looks like. But there are common aspects, many of which can be found in other traditions and religions, including those with roots in West Africa. Rootcraft in Legendborn borrows 4 of these common elements. So they are ancestor reverence and communion, the ritual use of organic materials, naturopathic medicine and healing, and themes of protection. Root work is a historic and living folk tradition and spiritual practice, but it is not the practice in my book. While the rootcraft magic Bree explores in the book is fictional, I chose to use the term root in Legendborn for 4 reasons. Here's her reasons. To set this type of ancestral organic magic apart from the magic of the order. Because of the power of this word in my community, imagery using roots exists across Black music, pop culture, and film. Because for me and many other Black people in the South, it feels as if the very soil that helped grow this country is soaked with the acknowledged and unacknowledged blood, sweat, and tears of enslaved Africans and their descendants, and in truth, it is. And then to hint at the solution to Bree's turmoil in the book, which is to recognize the living nature of love in her life alongside death, and to literally go underground to find the truth of her origin.
Okay. So I was kind of right in that root was, like, I call it witchcraft, but like I knew hoodoo was what I was trying to think of, because I knew that there was a African American section that is like uses nature.
Yeah, so the 4 elements really are ancestor reverence and communion, like with your ancestors. They're very close, and they're the ritual use of organic materials, so using leaves and herbs and all of that stuff. Naturopathic medicines and healing, so you use nature, those same roots and herbs and berries
to create like salves and
right
homeopathic medicines.
Right. And then there's a theme of protection.
Yep.
So there you go. Which is completely different from what the Merlin order does.
Yeah, you see, theirs is coming from nature.
Theirs is nature, and it seems like they work the nature to create things and do things, where the order is more entitled.
Yeah.
Right? They're entitled. They got everything. They got the power already. And they just keep taking more. So they're the entitled ones. And the root people are more, we work for what we get and learn, and
kind of goes towards society, right?
Right. Well, yeah. There are those different sects of, the entitled ones that just get and have always gotten, and that's the order. It's passed down, and they just always get it because their ancestors did.
And they don't give to other people.
No, and they
keep it within theirs.
And
everybody else has to work their butt to try to get anything that they can get, because they're not being given anything.
Yes. So this is really, in my opinion, it's a much deeper story than any magical anything else. It's really,
I feel like it's a commentary on social class and what we see every day, but put into a
fictional magical
where it doesn't feel like you're being like lectured at, but you can go like, wow, I can see how this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And maybe some of the other stuff in her notes address that too, but that was just the root part. So,
well, I mean, if you think about it, that the book Animal Farm is not about animals on a farm.
I never read it, but I know that.
Oh, but yeah, it's not.
Yes, it is much more philosophical, Brenda. Yes, that's exactly what I believe. Hmm. Yeah, she's just used this
Format.
venue, this death, to address larger issues.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I mean, I like how she's doing it because I mean, you can see the parallels. You can see, I mean, you have a lot of this where you have, you know, the order. She's the only one of
Oh,
her kind.
I didn't remember that, Lynn. It started with a slave girl escaping. I didn't even remember that.
Yep.
Did not remember that. Hmm. All right,
But so
we know what we're doing. We know where we're
we do
headed,
know we're doing.
sort of.
Yep. And
Even though
I
I
will watch
think
this again to find out where to stop.
I was gonna say, I think talking about it like that, putting it in a bigger picture, gives me a different way to look at it versus all the little details of who and what and where and all that gets confusing. But now I think I have a bigger lens to look through, at a bigger picture, maybe. I think
Yeah,
all the
if
little
you're looking at it
details are still going to boggle my mind. You know what I mean?
right, but maybe now with looking at it through that bigger lens, I mean, like I said, we can see, she's the only one of her kind in the order. And people were distrustful of her, not because of her, but had to think something was wrong, something was more evil, which is kind of how a lot of people did believe, and didn't want to let them in. And, even when um, her therapist took her to the memorial, if you think about it, this memorial is way in this little thing, and like almost like a shame kind of thing. And so,
She's going to eventually have powers and knowledge and things inside her that make her super powerful and teach others maybe there's a different way and things like that.
and maybe be able to bring more
Yeah.
acceptance or whatever. But yeah, I agree, Brenda. This could actually be a good, get something good to do in a literature class. Because you could even say, even if you don't take the African American part of it, but it kind of can remind you of what was it, the bourgeoisies, and didn't they have like the ruling class, and they were all up here, and all the serfs and all the people that were just trying to have, like, hey, I'll work forever if I can just get a piece of land that I can have that's mine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I mean, throughout history, there's been that always. There's this and there's this, and
Well, we still have it now. You have the
well,
rich to stay rich,
yeah, of course.
and the poor going, please.
Yep. That's
Rich don't
always
have to even lift a finger. It's just,
no.
I'm gonna have that. Hello, that's mine.
That's always a common theme in any society that just yeah. All right. I'm done being philosophical for the night, so I'm going to see what my husband wants now. But I
He's
think that
probably
will
wanting to know, Mindy, what are you cooking?
probably. What are we doing for dinner? Although he's way out in the back playing in the bushes, so I don't know.
Well, of course, so he's working up an appetite.
Probably.
He's working up an appetite for Mindy to feed.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't work like that around here. I hate to tell him that. Or I hate to tell you that. No, he knows that. It doesn't work like that.
I
Anyway.
get to figure it out for myself because Danny's gone, and Danny will be back later tonight whenever he's finished with his friends. Wayne is gone for the night, so it's just me. It's just me.
I don't have that happen hardly ever. I'm just by myself. Hardly ever. I used to when Dale went to work, but that doesn't happen anymore. So, all right. Well, happy reading. Let's see if we get any more enlightened in the next little section. So we'll see you
Some enlightenment.
we'll see you next week. Just keep plugging through. See you later.